I'm going to tell you a story tonight, a fascinating spiritual story that right within the few minutes that it takes to tell, you will have the complete, altogether story which explains the human condition, your condition, here on earth and how it can be solved. Something needs solving, right? How about your life? Need a lot of solving. A lot of things revealed and understood and healed. The story I'm going to tell you contains 50, 60, 100 different, very basic spiritual truths, all put into one compact narrative, in which you will be able to see yourself. If you're brave, even just a little bit brave enough to look, which you'll be able to see your own personal condition and understand it for the first time. Understand why everyone is the way they are. Why is this frantic seeking for security and not finding security? Talking about love as if it exists on this earth. It doesn't exist. The word love exists. The state does not. The state does not belong to this world, to this society as it is. But you can find out, and you will find out authentically and from yourself, what it really means to love, to be compassionate, to be kindly. And I'll give you a clue right now. To be inwardly truthful about the human condition is to be loving. To be dishonest about your life is to be destructive. So let's start with a story, and please do follow it. And do get the tape from one of the ladies, listen to it over and over, so you'll begin to connect it with yourself and with society as a whole. And when you get to the end of it, you will know what to do. How many times since you've been a little child have you looked around, you asked Mama and Papa, what should I do? They didn't know. No, they didn't know. You asked your teachers, what should I do? No one knew the answers. They gave you answers, but then you had to ask someone else. The beautiful answer with the capital A that you're going to hear about tonight. Once you get that, that is the answer, the only answer you need. You'll be a different kind of a person. You'll be a person who is not subject to the pains of economics out there. That is, you're not going to be afraid. You're not going to be afraid of this pressurized world, which puts pressure on everyone. Just to be on the level of this society is to be in fear, to be under pressure. We will show you, truth will show you how to be right in the middle of the madhouse, the insane asylum, and be sane yourself, so that all the surrounding madness won't scare you as it now does. Pretty terrifying, isn't it? And isn't it a terrible thing to be afraid? Did you ever just stop, think of that? Look, you are in fear. You tremble, you're anxious, you're worried over a dozen things, 1,000 things. Did you ever consider that a terrible way to live? Did you ever put the two together? I'm afraid I'm going to lose my girlfriend. I'm afraid I won't have enough money to pay the bills. I'm afraid of being alone, of being isolated. Did you ever simply sit down on the couch of your home and say, what a disaster for me to continue to live this way. What a terrible state to be in. Do so. Do so. So that you'll see it, and that will be a motive, an incentive for you wanting to get out. And you can get out. Not your way. It hasn't worked. Another way. A new way. A way so new, when I get through explaining it tonight, you won't get it. You'll have the road map. When you have that road map from where you are now to the beautiful place over there, you can study the map, can't you? And if you wander off into the jungle, you can look at the map and say, wait a minute, I failed to pay attention to the instructions on this map. I fell asleep walking down the highway. You can see. You know how to tell whether you're asleep? When you're scared of the jungle. How many of you are asleep? You know you are. I'm talking about spiritual sleep, of course, psychological sleep. So you're going to get a map tonight, and you'll be able to refer to it anytime you want. The books are maps. The cassette tapes are maps. You can listen to them, and you say, you know, I listened to that short paragraph on the cassette tape. I listened to it 5 times, and after the 6th time, I finally understood what it was talking about. This will be a very interesting experience to you if everyone goes through this, where they have the maps, and they think they understand, or they think they understood it 10 years ago. See, if we really understand something, then we don't have to pay attention to it anymore. Look at the attention you pay to your worries. I better tell you something else. Maybe you can take a little bit. When you're personally lost because you haven't obeyed the roadmap, when you're off in that jungle and you're scared and you're desperate, you're also terribly cruel. See, a scared person has no conscience. You can't have a conscience when you cannot have a conscience if you're scared. Don't say you have one. Off in the jungle, it's where it's every man for himself, people say. Well, what kind of a world do you live in? A world that goes after each other, everyone stealing from each other in the name of the law very often. Everyone hurting each other in the name of justice. I'll say it once more. The world is a total madhouse inhabited by madmen. And if you don't know that, I highly recommend that you begin to suspect it. Because as long as you think that there's any goodness or decency or intelligence or guidance in this world, as long as you think that, you are going to pay the price for your misinformation and for your gullibility. These classes that you will attend here in Southern California, they are classes in becoming ungullible. And when you're gullible, you don't know it. So come and we'll show you how gullible you are and then show you the cure. Oh, you'll be so grateful. You know, you're grateful for little things now. Someone flatters you or something. Wait till you make progress along the roadway. You'll know what real gratitude is. And you know the gratitude won't be toward the teacher, won't be toward me, won't be toward one of the other gentlemen who teach you the classes. Because you'll know by that time where the answer really comes from. It doesn't come from any human being, none of them. And then you'll know who God is. You'll know what the source of real power is. It comes up from there, comes down from there, and comes right into any human being who really knows that nothing he can do can change anything, and you know that perfectly well. That changing your thoughts, changing your minds is not going to change your level of happiness. Now for the story. There was once an enormous bat cave, like Carlsbad Cavern. How many have been there? Carlsbad Cavern? Okay, something like that. And in this vast, never-ending caves with its various caverns, hundreds of them, lived millions of bats. Crowded, you've seen them, they come out looking like smoke. You've seen photographs, haven't you? Just millions of the bats inside the cave. And that's where they lived, in darkness. They lived in the dark cave, and of course they only flew out at night So all the bats knew was a dark world. Now, these bats in this special kind of a cave had a government, just as human beings have governments. And they had their leaders, whom they elected, chief bats. How's that for a title? The Honorable Chief Bat. And they had their revolutions, and they had their political intrigues. In short, they had the same thing that we see in this world with governments, with all the brutality and the trickery and the violence and the hatred. So these billions of bats lived in this enormous cave. One day, Mother Nature came along, and she looked around, saw how things were down there, saw how miserable they were. Dark, depressed, fighting each other. So Mother Nature called a conference, and she gave a little talk. And guess what she told them? She said, ladies and gentlemen, bat ladies and gentlemen, I suppose, I have some interesting news for you. I'm going to tell you something that you won't be able to understand. It's beyond your comprehension. And I'm not insulting your intelligence. I'm telling you a fact. Because if I don't tell you that, you'll make an assumption and you'll make a mistake and you won't understand and be able to get the value out of what I'm going to tell you. So Mother Nature continued, and she said, ladies and gentlemen, miserable ladies and gentlemen, you live in what is called a dark, miserable cave, leading dark, miserable lives. And this is all you know, because you live only in darkness here in the day, and during the day you're in here in darkness, and you fly out at night only. So there's something that you don't know about, but I'm going to identify it for you right now. It's called the world of sunshine. Now, again, you don't know what it is, so I'll describe it to you as best I can, but you won't be able to think about it because you haven't seen it. Think about it rightly. But it's called the world of sunshine, and out there is an enormous globe up in the sky, millions of miles up there, that shines down, makes the grass green, beautiful trees, and there's streams, and there's lakes, and there's flowers of different colors. And they ask, what's a color? And Mother Nature said, I can't explain it to you now. You wouldn't understand it, because down here everything is dark. So Mother Nature went on and described the outside world. And they only showed moderate interest in it, because they couldn't understand it. And it seemed like something too remote, too mysterious for them to be interested in. Mother Nature went on, and she said, now it's very important for you to understand what I'm going to tell you next. So listen carefully. You were called bats. Bats are miserable people. They bump into each other. The radar doesn't work right all the time. They hurt each other. They're miserable. They're sick. They're greedy. They're competitive. They're violent. Are you not? Now, citizens of this dark cave, I have the magic power, as Mother Nature, I have the magic power to turn you into something else. And I will again name it, but again you won't understand because you're not what I'm going to name. You can turn from miserable dark bats into beautiful bluebirds. Now, bluebirds are very real creatures. They live in this world of sunlight that I told you about. They fly around. There's no end to the places they can go to in this world. Look how cramped you are down here. How you bump into walls and bump into each other, bump into shadows. This world I'm just telling you about is nothing like this. And you can have this world which is so different. You can go anywhere. The sky's the limit. Marvelous place. Now I'm going to tell you, citizen bats, citizens of this cave, how you can turn from a bat into a bluebird. Here's how. You fly up toward the entrance exit to this cavern during the day. Now remember, you only fly out at night now, so I'm telling you, during the day, the opposite of the time that you usually fly out. When you go up to the entrance of the cave, and it is daylight, an enormous shock will occur to you. Your eyes will blink. You'll want to draw back. You will draw back. Because this sunlight you're not used to it. You don't know what it is. As a matter of fact, because this sunlight is so unlike your usual place to live, you will think that it's an enemy of you, because you think this is your friend, because this is all you've ever had is this dark cavern. You think this is the place to be. You think this is a marvelous place. Thinking that is marvelous because you're thinking opposite. You think this is an enemy place out there, a place to be avoided. And when you go up there and you first see the sunlight and your eyes blink like that, you're going to back away. You're going to be scared. Oh, you're going to be terrified. Mother Nature went on and she said, now, citizens of this cave, it is necessary for me to tell you something that, not to discourage you, but because it's simply a fact and it must be told, which is this. Of all you listening to me, very few of you are really going to make it out into the world where you become a bluebird, where you have a new nature. Very, very few of you really are going to do it, because this is the way it is. Most of you are already judging what I am saying, Mother Nature went on. You're already putting up safeguards against it because you have lived down here so long. You call this your happiness. You call your fighting with each other excitement. And since there's no fighting out there, and we're going to take away your fighting, you say you're not going to take away my hatred and hostility and my anger. Oh no. So, citizens, few of you will ever break through. However, some will. A few will. Those who want it. Those who listen. Those who are tired of fighting. Those who are real tired of fighting. Those who are exhausted. Not those who want to snare. Not those who want to hate. Not those of you who want to get up and walk out while I'm talking, Mother Nature said. Those of you who want to go deeper into the cave, it's up to you. I can't compel you, Mother Nature said. I can tell you how to get out. And then it's all up to you. So she went on and explained a few other things. Finally, she came to an end of her explanation. After urging them all to try, knowing that her words would fall only on just a few, Mother Nature left, and the bats all stood there a little bit looking at each other, not quite knowing what to do with this astounding information. But it didn't take very long for something to happen. You know what happened? The majority of the bats sneered at what Mother Nature said, rejected it, said, what a lie. And oh yes, they get furious. And not only that, but listen to what they did. The leaders down there, in the various caverns, the governors of the different caverns, they said, we can't have this. They got together in a conference and they said, we can't have people getting out of here. Who will we govern, or who will we tyrannize? Who will make work for us? Who will we have applaud us for our great noble efforts in running this cave properly? If they all escape out there, as Mother Nature said, we've got to do something about it. And they did. And the world does. And I think you're following me. So the bat leader said, first of all, we must have a great propaganda in which we warn everyone that it is death to them to go out there and life to stay here. In other words, they said, let's tell them the exact opposite. We know how sick it is here, but we're getting rewards from it. We don't want any of the slaves to escape. Not only that, but they put guards out there near the edge of the entrance exit. Put guards out there. People, some of the bats who were a little curious, maybe, a little bit tired, they'd go up to the start of the cave, and there the fierce guards would be there and scare them back. You see, the bats were so used to being scared. They were so easily intimidated and went back in again. Oh, but listen to this. About once a week, one man bat living over the cave over there, another girl bat living in the cave over there. They start going up to the exit of the cave, and they wanted so badly to find out what would happen that they skirted the guards and they got out. Oh, it hurt, and they went back. The next day they tried again, and they hurt, and they hated the sunlight in their eyes, and they went away, but they came back. You know what the others were saying? Why they were doing this? The others are saying, we don't want the pain of sunlight. We don't want the pain of sunlight. We want to be here where there's no pain. No pain. It is the world of absolute total pain in the cave. Anyway, what do you know? There really was a miracle that happened. Every once in a while, one of the bats would get up, and after about 100 times of going up to the cave, and they had to put their wings over their eyes like that and go back again. And they went through. They finally got out. Do you know what it's all about? Do you get it? You know what? The bats are human beings. What else? Human beings are bats. They behave just like bats. And they flap around, hurting each other. The cave, of course, is unconscious darkness that human beings prefer. Mother Nature is reality. The bluebird is true new nature that you can have. If you won't listen to those tyrants inside yourself, won't listen to the tyrants outside yourself. Every human being in the bat cave who prefers that will put a guard out to keep you from getting out, and that is a fact, and I want you to know it. And I also want you to know that those guards are inside you too. I know what's going to happen to you when you go out of this room. I know perfectly, 100% what's going to happen to you. You're going to forget. Some of you will remember. A few of you will remember what you've heard here tonight. You won't be able to forget it, thank heaven. The rest of you are going to forget it, and you don't even know what I'm talking about. When you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm not talking to you at all anyway tonight. Maybe a lady over there, maybe a gentleman over there, who has been bruised and broken 1,000 times, 10,000 times, and used it to learn instead of using it to lie, which most of you do. That man, that woman, having been knocked down and jumped on by life, including jumping on themselves, that man or that woman cries out to God Almighty and says, isn't there something other than this? That's the most beautiful prayer you will ever speak in your life. You want what you've got, you are welcome to it. You've got a lot of friends who will keep you company, and you'll be at each other's throats continually as you have been in the past. I'm giving you a chance. You've got a chance here tonight to escape the nonsense, the stupidity. Look, I'm talking about all of us. We're all in the same world, every one of us. But I'm talking to the few of you who are completely broken. Not to you people who are still, quote mark, courageous, who's going to fight on with some stupid some kind of type of positive program that you read about. I'm talking to the few of you in this room who knows in your heart and will listen to your heart when it says you can't do anything for yourself. You know it. And when in great horror you utter that prayer, you see, when you utter the prayer, I can't do anything for myself, I can't save myself. When you see that is the shattering of the ego center that has kept you in the cave. And at that moment, the bluebird begins to be born, begins to develop. And at that minute, when the wings develop, and you go outside of that cave and you see you can fly, and you look up and you look around, first thing you're going to think of when you get used to it a little bit out there is, I think I'll go back and tell my bat friends about this. And then you have second thoughts, don't you? You know what they'll try to do if a bluebird goes down there and tries to tell the bats? They'll rip it apart, try to. By the way, I should tell you something. They can't really rip a bluebird apart. No way. They can try. Truth can be attacked by devils in human form. It can be slandered. How do you destroy sunlight? You can throw a rock at it, I suppose. You can curse it. You can hate it. Isn't that a ridiculous sight, by the way? Man standing out in the sunlight throwing rocks at the sunlight. You think that's ridiculous. I should tell you some of the things we see going on in some of these places. People who have preferred to stay down in the depths of the darkness and curse. You know, it's quite an interesting phrase, because there really is indeed a curse on human beings. And if you'd like to lift it, you can do it. Because you see, no one can put the curse on you. You've got it through yourself. You curse yourself through your own ignorance and through your refusal to start walking out into the sunlight. Of course it's going to hurt out at the exit. It's going to hurt terrible. You're going to scream. You're going to holler. You're going to run away. You're going to hate people who tell you the truth. You're going to attack them mentally. Maybe with your mouth. Maybe you'll get up and run out of a meeting 10 times. What else do you expect? What do you expect bats to do? They hate the sunlight. All old nature hates the sunlight. Yours, mine, everybody's. What do you expect? Understand it. So if you get to this point, if you even get to the point where you go to the exit of the cave, where you hear these principles over and over, and they begin to have meaning to you, this is what it means to have the sunlight come in. Oh, what a shock to your conceit. Oh, I'll tell you, you're going to wear out your shoes or your wings, running back and forth, going back to your sick friends, time and time and time again. You know, let me tell you how merciful God is. God is merciful in that any human being living in the cave who even takes the initiative, the effort to go out and see a little bit of sunlight for the first time and get shocked, hate it, not like it, lie about it. That's not sunlight. I don't like that. This is sunlight down here. This, everything. You have no idea how insane people are. How people in their violence with hatred contorting their purpled faces can say, I'm a loving human being. You have no idea of the total insanity of the average human being. And it's too bad you don't know, because that makes you their victim. When you're saying no nut can take you. And that's a good description of the rest of the world. Anyway, any man or any woman who goes to the entrance of the cave and catches a little bit of light, even if he rejects it, God is merciful when you run away. afraid, trembling, and saying, "No, don't put me out in that horrible world out there." God is merciful to keep nagging you. Here you are living back in your cave again, your little comfort, your stupid little home, your stupid little friends, your stupid little activities, your stupid little thoughts, your stupid little self. All the time living in a repetition of your dark nature there. God is so merciful to not give up with you if you've made the effort to see it for the first. He knows. It just so happens that God is smarter than a human being. And God knows what's going on here with this man, with this woman. And he keeps sending the message down. Go take another look. Go ahead. Go right through all your sick friends who want to keep you down in there. And they will. Have any of you ever tried to talk to these principles to some of your friends? What happened? I know what happened. You know what happened. The variety of lies is incredible, isn't it? You go past your friends. You go through the twists and turns of the cavern. And especially, you keep going ahead toward the exit entrance. You keep going ahead, knowing that you're deliberately walking into another pane of the light. Thank God. When you get to this point, you're saved. You're a bluebird. You're out. When you understand the principle that you don't want to go, but you have to go out. You have to keep going. When you know that, you are saved for eternity. You're out of the bat cave. How many have had that experience? You know? In one of our exercises in our class in Boulder City, Nevada. Now watch it terrify some of you. Say, I'm not going up there if they do that. You know the terrible thing we do? We make people stand up for a minute and a half behind a microphone and give a talk for a minute and a half before the audience. How many of you still don't want to come up? Do you know they all do it? And do you know little by little they understand why you must put yourself in uncomfortable positions so you can learn to see how cowardly you've been all your life? Who wants to go? No one originally, but we know we have to, and we're going. Nothing can stop us. Look, you know finally that God is indeed more powerful than every sick human being on earth. Every gun, tank, submarine, torpedo, whatever. God is, look, in case you didn't know it, the victory's already won. Since when does the victory come simply because you contacted God? God has existed for eternity. When you contact God, the victory becomes yours as of now, simply because you contacted the victory that's been in existence forever. Want to go? Don't you forget what you have heard. That is the chief enemy. You forget. You're distracted. You want to forget. Don't do it. Go against yourself. Walk out. Read the books. Come to the classes. Listen to the tape. Do something for heaven's sake instead of falling asleep again and waking up in the bat cave with a new set of miseries. The way is known. The way has been given to you. Walk out. You know the importance of being alert, of looking around and of seeing what's going on when you're engaged in a physical task that might have some danger in it. Driving your car, working with heavy machinery. You know very well that your life is in danger if you do not stay awake and watch what's going on. So physical safety is a natural thing with us, and even then we fall asleep. but at least it is put in there originally to keep you safe physically. You've also been told of the need for moment by moment noticing of what you're doing at the time you're doing it. Like noticing yourself right now as much as you can. Physical posture, facial expression, thoughts, so on. So the word alertness is one of the most important that you'll ever hear in any class designed for your inner awakening. You must stay awake. You must see what it means. You must go all around it and see how you fall asleep. You must see yourself chattering away, not even seeing anything because you're so busy just flooding the atmosphere with your blabbermouthery. You must see yourself in action at the moment you're doing it so that that alertness can cancel out wrong actions that waste your time and waste your life and waste your energy. Now, the enemy knows all about what I just said, what you just heard. The forces of sleep, of evil, of darkness, of opposition, of hostility, the forces that don't want you to wake up, they know all about alertness. They are very alert to keep you unalert. And they have 10,000 tricks which they can play on any dozing human being. You have to therefore not just try to be awake. You have to, can't you just, when you're down at work, wander around and say, well, I'll try to see if I can watch myself for the next 5 minutes. You have to put effort in it. You have to go all out. You have to put intense energy into it in order to counter what is countering you, trying to keep you asleep through the alertness of darkness. They know how to distract you. Do you know how to prevent dark forces from distracting you so that you are alert? Consider the enemy, therefore. Know its plans, study its plans. We do this every time we come here. Anticipate where it's going to attack you. Where is it? Some stupid sentimentality that you have? Some place where you're feeling guilty and ashamed of yourself over something? Catch the thought before it catches you. Now, I've started tonight giving you a few general principles about you being that sentry on guard all the time, like right now, noticing yourself. Because I want to give you an idea, a principle that can only be invited to conquer for you if you stay awake long enough to see it fully and understand it, because it is very, very deep. And the deeper a truth, the more the alertness of hostile forces, the more they will try to keep you in a state of slumber. So right now, you will determine to stay awake and don't let anything creep in that shouldn't be there for the rest of this meeting and beyond. Because if you can receive, absorb a certain special point, idea, power that I'm going to tell you about, that is what changes you. That is what gives you more alertness. That is what tells you all about the enemy. It's the light that tells you about the opposition. So I want you to make on any level you want. You can do it physically if you want to just shift a little bit and see yourself shift and know that your hands are now a little more relaxed than they were before, and you're talking a little slower, and you're not going to let the hostile forces make you feel excited over anything. You're going to just relax and listen and let truth teach you the welcome truth. Now we'll get into the point itself. Imagine yourself strolling down the beach along the shore in a heavy, dense fog. But you have to go somewhere, you think, and so you wander along the shore. And because it's so thick, you can't see. It's dark, cold, gloomy. And because you're walking in this place, you get ambushed by sudden waves that come over, flood over you. And you stumble into rocks and get all caught up into seaweed on the shore. And you slip and fall, and you get into little deep, extra wet sand and get soaked up to your knees. And it's pretty miserable. But you think you have to keep going. But what are you going to do about the fog which keeps you from seeing where you're going, therefore you can't go where you think you should go to? And by this time, let's see if this strikes home. By this time, because you've been doing it for several hours and don't seem to be making much progress, in fact, you might think you might have turned around in the fog and gone back in the opposite direction. You don't know where you are, don't know where you're going. How many of you don't know where you're going? I'll raise your hand. Yeah. So now you've brought emotion into your journey, haven't you? So what are you going to do about it? Well, you say, and that's important to follow your thought processes. You say, I've got to do something about this fog. I've got to defeat it so I can reach my chosen destination. Now, there are a lot of people in this world who are this mad that they would actually go out and fight the fog, thinking they could push it back with their fists, which is pretty nonsensical, right? Others think that in some way they can, they've heard about the word prayer, and so they offer a prayer that the fog will vanish, but it doesn't vanish. Nothing happened. Same thing as before. Remember how many times you've done that? Nothing happened. And they think of all the strange things they can do to curse the fog, to make it go away, or kid themselves and say, well, if I keep it up, they've read some kind of a positive thinking book, if I keep it up, maybe the fog will vanish and I'll be on a bright shore and go on to my destination. Complete defeat. Already I've described your condition. You're in a certain kind of a fog in your life, are you not? And you try to do all sorts of things in order to conquer it. Now, the only sensible thing for you to do is to stop fighting the fog, right? It doesn't do any good. We'll get to that in considerable more depth in a minute. The only sensible thing to do is to understand that if you do just sit down somewhere and wait, that the sun will come up sooner or later and dissolve the fog and you go on your way. You understand that much all of a sudden. You didn't realize it before because you're so desperate and you wanted yourself to solve your own problem. You didn't realize that if you waited long enough, a certain event would happen outside of you, which would be the rising of the sun and coming around to a certain position where it's heat. And the light dissolved the fog, and it went away in front of you, little by little. You could see 5 feet, then 10 feet, then 20 feet. You knew that something outside of you was doing it, which it was, and finally the fog is gone altogether. And you can go along your way. Whatever difficulty you have, you yourself unknowingly keep it in place by not just stopping where you are and waiting. Waiting
for something that is not you to do what you cannot do, which will happen. But if you've never experienced this will sound like a mysterious thing to you. I assure you, it is not mysterious at all. I assure you there's no great fantasy connected with it, but a very solid fact that you can indeed experience and prove for yourself. Now I'm coming to a point which I've been building up to, which I do wish you would write down, remember. Here it is. Be alert now. Be alert to this, because the alert dark forces don't want you to know this. We're exposing the enemy here tonight. Here it is. The only sensible thing for you to do is to do nothing, because everything you do achieves nothing. See, this is the spiritual definition of waiting, what it means to wait. You know, you've heard the phrase, wait on God. Be patient. Don't go rushing off in a dozen directions, but just wait. Now, I'm going to say it as many ways as I can, so that we will defeat whatever wants you to not see this. When you remain still inwardly, when you remain silent, you can even do it physically, of course. What happens? Shall I tell you? When you stay still and don't make an effort to clear away the fog, that is the end of you. Right? Well, now look. When you're fighting the fog, that's to be a fighter. When you're hoping, well, if I continue along this way, some way through my own efforts, I'll defeat the fog and be on bright ground. Doesn't there have to be a hoper? When you curse the fog hatefully and angrily for blocking your passage, for frustrating you, isn't there a hater? And this is not what you want, but what has taken possession of you wants, and it's got you. Hasn't it got you? How many of you got mad today? Hateful? How many of you had any kind of a negative emotion at all? All of you raise your hand. How many of you have vanity? How many of you are suppressed little neurotics? That always gets you. You're walking along the beach. Try to get what I'm saying. Here is nothing trying to do something. When nothing tries to do something, nothing happens. And you stay as you are. The problem remains. Frustration remains. The person who is in love with pain and anguish remains. You remain with your old, familiar, cherished, self-destructive habits. I'm going to repeat it. When you're in any kind of a position in life, you know, internally you've got all these things going around inside of you, fighting inside of you, riotous thoughts. When you have a problem which you think is exterior with another person, maybe with your employment, anything, whatever. When you have a problem, your first thought is to do something about it. Oh, please see if you can get this. There's no you and your problem. There is you, which is the problem. When you see that there's only you, which is the problem, does it make any sense to try to solve it? How can the prisoner in prison get himself out of prison. He can't. He's in prison. He's behind all those bars and locks and guards. The prisoner can't get out of prison. He can't say, I am going to get out of prison. Who's the I who's going to get him through those locks? The person who is behind the locks, who has no power over the locks, who can't bribe the guards. Every attempt, therefore, that your thought self makes to clear away the fog, whatever it might be, every attempt must always lead you right into frustration, into more fear. See, you have trusted what you call yourself, and you trust this delusory entity because you have attributed strength, virtue, wisdom, permanence to it. You've taken nothing and added several more nothings to it. You get a big bowl and you pour nothing into it, and you say, I will add more to my something, and you add more nothing to your something, and when you're all through you have nothing. What you call something? Solution. You do, and this is marvelous to hear, you do have the power to choose to just sit down in the fog and wait with the understanding, as dim as it might be at the start, and it will be dim at the start, that eventually the sun will do for you what you can't do for yourself. The heat and power and light of the sun will dissolve the fog that is in front of you, therefore it can never be a problem to you anymore. You do have the ability to make the decision to no longer try to save yourself. You have miserably failed all your life, all of you. What's your age? Come on, say your age to yourself. You have miserably failed for that number of years. Are you so stupid that you're going to continue for one more day that way when all it does is pound you and hurt you? I know what your resistance is. The resistance is your own refusal to see that you have no strength in yourself, no power, no wisdom in yourself. I know that, but you don't know that. But I want you to know it from now on. The reason you won't give up and make fully the choice just to pause, just to wait, and let something that is not you dissolve the delusion of you. Now, here's the difficulty. Even if you go that far and you say, all right, I'll slow down. I see how idiotic it is to hit the fog with my fists or to curse it or to always be fighting someone. I see it a little bit. I see it because it hurts so bad, doesn't it? It's horrible, isn't it? The dreadful, the waves of anguish that you experience. You know it, I know it, you know it. When you decide initially to sit down on a rock and just calmly wait for something real to work on it instead of this unreal savior of yourself, at that moment you must be especially alert. Although, since you're should be 100% work alert at all times, I don't know how you can be more than 100%. But you must remind yourself to be especially alert when you finally decide to sit down on the rock and wait on God. That is, there's a certain wisdom beginning to grow in you that knows you shouldn't write that angry letter. That knows you shouldn't have a false enjoyment of hostile thoughts. You're beginning to pause, right? Slow down. At that moment of your right decision, everything that is wrong, that is still inside of you, hating what is right, will attack with furious folly. And it will look at you and study you and look you over to try to find your weakest point. Is that person easy to conquer because he or she is sentimental? Does that person have a point of conceit in him that I can appeal to try to get him up off of that rock and get him to walking and fighting on his own again? You must be alert to the alertness of the devil and trying to take you over, because now he's worried that you might slip out of his clutches, that you just might stay there until the sun shines and he is defeated completely. Now, the beauty of spiritual effort is that there is not 10 billion right choices for you, not 20 billion, not 50 billion right selections for you, but as many as you want. Trillions upon trillions upon trillions. Therefore, after having made your first choice of not going along in your foolish ways, of not going along with who you've been, and you wait there, you're internally waiting for something to happen. The attacks come, make another choice. Make another choice to stay there. I choose not to go along with that thought that says this is foolishness. Remember, the devil will lie to you. You know that? Do you know that you have been lied to where your life is wretched? You can choose the second time, the third time. See, remember, what a power. I choose not to go along with that because you can sense that it's wrong for you to yield to temptation. I choose the second time, third time, 10th time, 500th time to stay with this new experience. That's what I choose. No, I am not going along with my usual falsehoods. I am not going to send out a hostile thought to that person who said something that I took as being offensive to me. I am not going to be in despair over my inability to break a habit. Whoever told you that despair is ever necessary in any condition? Whoever told you that? Why do you believe it? You do? You know that habit? You know it, don't you? You know it? Nod your head, you all know it. Habits, plural. All those, mental habits, whatever, you know what they are. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Who told you, and why did you believe it, that despair or disappointment or frustration is a right reaction? You're walking in the fog trying to fight it. You are. I'm going to give the devil some open bad news right now in this meeting. Sir, these people out here are beginning to understand that they are not their despair. You know who I'm talking to? I'm talking to anything wrong inside of you. It's in, where do you think? How many of you have hell inside of you? Well, where do you think the devil lives? Now, did you hear the message I gave? Were you listening? You were supposed to listen to that so that you understand that there is something that can talk. You can't do it yet, but I'm giving you a lead. That can talk consciously to the devil. And he has to obey. Light's stronger than darkness. God's stronger than evil. Put it any way you want. Now, don't miss the point. See, you now think that you are your despair, desperation, frustration. And you think that because you do everything possible to make it appear inside of you. And what you do is fight the fog. What you do is do something to save yourself. What you do is mechanically, unknowingly, unseeingly walk along the shore hating the opposition. The thing that you fear most of all, listen to me, the thing the not you fears most of all is the appearance of the sun that will dissolve the fog, because when the fog goes, so do you. Right? Understand that? How many understand that? Understand that? Where there is a fighting of the fog, there's a fighter. Where there is no fog, there can't be a fighter. Therefore, there can't be you. Therefore, the Spirit of truth is in its place. Now that's, to keep the illustration going, that's the dissolving of the fog, and that's you as a spiritual being walking, strolling calmly along the clear shore. No fog at all, nothing to fall over. You know, it takes a lot of spiritual courage to give up having troubles. It takes a lot of daring to walk along that shore and say, I am going to have the courage to not be ambushed by waves anymore. I'm going to have the courage to give up tripping over the seaweed and getting mad and cursing fate. I'm going to have the courage to give up all fighting and opposition inside myself and sit down on the rock and wait. I told you, if you do this, that will be the end of you, and then you can spend the rest of your life thanking God for that fact, which you will do. Not now. Because even while I'm talking to you now, you're only partially listening to me. And the rest of you is listening to something you have no business listening to. And it's about time you stopped, and you know what I'm talking about. And it knows what I'm talking about. Now let's see if we can finish with a resounding point. Stupidity is dumb. Pretty profound, right? There is only one real intelligence in the universe, and that has a capital I on the word. That intelligence is God. That intelligence is yours when you awaken spiritually, because you've joined yourself to the light. Now, in this true intelligence, there can be no fear and no listening to the delusion of intelligence that Satan presents before human beings. Therefore, if you will obey the rules, spiritual principle, if you will do that, you will see that your resistance, reluctance that you have toward the truth you've been hearing tonight, including giving yourself up, you will see that your resistance itself was simply a false imposition upon your nature, which you, with closed eyes, allied yourself with out of ignorance and out of fear of letting go of what you call your friend, because you don't as yet see it as a treacherous enemy. The idea of there being only one intelligence is the same as there being only one God. Now, how can there be more than one God? Oh, there can be 10 million devils, and there are. The kingdom of hell is divided, but the kingdom of heaven is one. There can only be one God. The point is, if you have that oneness in you, all 10 billion devils, all the fogs anywhere, anytime, can't touch you. You're not anywhere near them or in them, because this is also the light. Whatever resistance you have in yourself tonight to understanding and applying and exercising these ideas, that resistance can be seen and understood and dissolved by sitting down on the rock and waiting and waiting and waiting against all temptations for you to get up and try it again, to try to save you. How many times have you tried? I told you, get your age once more. Come on, once more. Don't waste one more day trying to save yourself. Sit down on the rock and wait. God up there will see you waiting there. God the Son will dissolve the fog. Do it and see for yourself. You are constantly, of course, having outbursts, usually in the privacy of your home or your car, in which you suddenly go mad, right? Inside your own mind, and if there's no one else around, you yell out in some way or other. Now please don't get panicky over your own madness. Please don't react to it. I've told you that when you have a wrong reaction, you can handle it rightly or wrongly, and the wrong way to handle it is to have a second wrong reaction to your first wrong action. But you must be very, very alert, very careful to know that you were out of control. That is, your spiritual self was put aside for the moment because you wanted to be you for a little bit. And you had this outburst, this maniacal laugh, this sexual obsession that you expressed verbally, right, men, ladies, right, mentally. Of course you did that. Why don't you stop right there? If you stop right there, you won't recreate it. If you do, go on and feel ashamed of yourself. I'm glad nobody saw me. You saw you. If you stop right there, you'll begin to dissolve something that's had a very tight grip on you, a terrifying grip, right? All this time. Look, let's see if we can get the point clear. You mustn't be ashamed of what has taken you over. When you are ashamed of it, you are tied to it and you believe in it. You believe in that little maniac inside that made you do that, say that, act that way. Your private behavior at home, when you're alone, anytime when you're alone, must be put under the microscope of your spiritual sight. Watch yourself go around the house. You notice how you suddenly let yourself go sometimes. Watch and see. You can see where you're suppressing yourself, which does not mean that the expression of it is right. It means that you suddenly let go. You weren't watching yourself walk around that house. And suddenly, you'll get this. You'll nod to this. All of a sudden, something shouted through your voice, right? Don't believe it was you. It wasn't. All right. Why are you afraid of that horrible, dreadful world out there. Why should you care if it is a world of maniacs, which it is? Why should you give it any thought or any concern at all that all of society is a lunatic asylum? One wrong reason is because you're afraid that in some way that asylum can hurt you. Now, why do you think that? See, you have to track down one thought after another. Why do you think that the world, you know, that vicious woman, that cunning man, why do you think they can hurt you? Obviously, you cringe, you do it all day. Why do you give thought to the weakness and the horror of the world? I'll tell you why. Only one reason. Not because it is scary, but because you are weak. What would you care if the whole world was mad animals, which it is, as long as you were an animal trainer? You knew how to handle them. You were strong inside yourself. You were smarter than the animals. What would you care? You see, that proves that you don't have strength. What would you care if the forest, the jungle, was 1,000 miles thick around you in darkness as long as you have a lantern? See? So when you don't have the lantern, which you don't have, that makes you scared. Because now, oh dear, how terrible. Now you have to look around, not having a lantern, you have to look around in that darkness and figure out how to outwit it. Pretty unequal contest, isn't it? All those pits and roots and wild animals out there. So what we want to talk about, come on, forget the weakness of the world, the harassment of it, the antagonism, the aggression. Forget it. It is there, yes, forget it. You're supposed to not be thinking about it, but by fearing it, but doing something for yourself. So that the darkness of the whole jungle is no account to you. You have the lantern. Wherever you go in that jungle, you've got the lantern. One step, next step, next step. There's no way it can be a jungle to you because you have the light. I'll tell you a little story about that. There's a teacher of truth. He's walking with his friends and his disciples. They're walking around town, around the countryside. And being a good teacher, he instructed his students to use what he saw out there as a school, as a classroom, to see what new lessons they could pick up. So they walked around various places, and the students were full of questions for their teacher. And they went by a big newsstand where there's newspapers and magazines and all kind of literature. And they said to the teacher, now, teacher, you've said that there's always a hidden meaning in everything out in the world. What's the hidden meaning behind, well, a newspaper rack? Hundreds of newspapers at the airport, for example. Teacher said, you think about it, and if you can't get it, I'll answer it a little later. But there is indeed a hidden meaning. Walked around a little farther, and they went down the theater district. Big bright lights, movie stars, people all dressed up with their smiles and their money and their long cars, going to the movie theater. And students asked the teacher, what's the hidden meaning of people going to the theater? Teacher said, a little bit, you think about it, if you don't get it, I'll finally tell you. Went on and on and on. I saw all sorts of human events. The football game, 100,000 people packed into the big playoff football game of the year. The students said there must be some hidden meaning there. We would like to know what it is. Of all these people spending all this money, I understand tickets cost up to $50, $60 for the goal line seats. What's it all about that people would spend all that money for? The teacher said, a little bit, and I'll tell you. So a little later, they're walking out in the countryside, and there was a farmer out there planting his seed for the coming season. And the teacher said, now, I'm going to answer your question. What's the meaning of what all those people are doing out there? The answer is, you look at that farmer out there planting his seed, and that's exactly what those people are doing at the football game, at the theater, at the book and magazine rack. Students, the teacher said, society is planting dependency. Farmers planting corn seeds. The world it's all planting dependency one on the other. Why? Well, in the first place, if that's all you've got, that's all you can spread, if that's the only seed you have, depending on someone else, wanting them to depend on you so that you get something in return, then that's what you'll do. Now, I wonder how far you've ever gone into the following thought as the teacher continued to tell them. One reason society always wants to get other dependent on them and depend on others, because that's how you keep control. If you're dependent on a football game, for heaven's sakes, what strength do you have to take care of a home crisis? You're depending on a magazine. How can you take care of that loneliness that you have? So the whole world is planting the seeds of dependency. Everyone on everyone else, and look at the horrible harvest in both the planter and the one who reaps. Little children have been taught that. Try to get something from someone else, and maybe get people to depend on you so that in turn you can trade back and get what you want. And the whole world is a wreck. Now we're talking to you. We're going to look at this business of you being dependent on something outside of yourself. And here's where I want you to start. Think of the phrase, inner strength. All right. Now, inner strength. You have heard it. You have heard the words, and I just repeated the words. Inner strength. It doesn't mean anything to you except words, because you don't know what inner strength means. Oh, because you're going to the football game, or maybe it's the baseball game, and you're going to the theater, and you're building this dependency upon something outside of real inner strength, therefore you don't know what it is, and here's how you find it. Drop all dependency. What else? See, you want something profound, I give you something simple and you reject it. Drop dreadful dependency. D. Drop dreadful dependency. Your lack of recognition of it is appalling. Test. Experiment. If what was taken away, would you fall? What are you leaning on, and what prop, what post, if it was taken away, would you fall down? Oh, dozens of them maybe. Please, why do you wait till the prop is pulled out from under you before you see it? That is what causes suffering. That causes an acute suffering. You're suffering when you're leaning. All leaning is pain. And you wait, and I'll tell you something you don't know. You wait with secret glee for the day when you have a repetition of the familiar pain of the breakup of the relationship or the marriage or the finances or whatever. You are living in hope of re-experiencing the only horrible thing you have, which is yourself. Therefore, dropping the leaning, the dependency, means you drop everything. That means you don't think anymore as you think tonight. If you go out of here thinking in the same way, you're leaning in the same way, and you'll be afraid in the same way. And you will want to be with other people who are planting the same seeds of dependency that you are, hoping in some way to get in on the harvest. I wonder how alert you were in the last 30 seconds. Your harvest is pain, and you know it. How can you sit here and deny that you're in love with something that hurts? You are. How many hurt? Come on. How many hurt? Why do you cling to it? You cling to it because you won't let go of it, right? You know, all of you are always asking the question, aren't you? Is there hope for me? Aren't you? You come here and you hear these principles and you know they're right. There's something in you that knows they're right, but you can't get it right. When am I going to break through? I know that's right, but when is something going to happen? How long am I going to be a student instead of a knower? Right? Anytime you want. Anytime you will dare to experience something that has no relationship whatever to you. Do you expect self-worshippers to do that? Do you expect people who are in love with themselves to do that? Do you expect you to do that? You were never going to do it. Something has been provided for you that you have never accepted yet. That something is a recognition of something that is utterly new, utterly different. It's a stranger to you at the start. And let me tell you what it is. The gift of God is a nothingness. Well, aren't you everything? Aren't you everything you know and cherish and love? How do you talk about yourself all the time? Start with that. Maybe get a little recognition here somewhere. You know, isn't there a song called You're My Everything? Let's change it to I'm My Everything. Sing it sometime. I'm my everything. All right. Where did you ever get the notion that you can have you and have peace of mind? Where did you ever get the notion that you can have you and have the lamp that takes you through the jungle? And here's the difficulty. It's impossible for you to conceive of anything but you. I know that. I understand that. I see it as a problem and as a barrier. How can you do anything but think about you? You can't. It really is. It's absolutely impossible for thought to rise above thought. When are you going to say in a different way, ask in a different way, is there hope for me? You know, how many of you have ever deceived another person? Yourself, yeah, all right. See, your petty little minds work so repetitiously, you think you could deceive God. You really believe that you are asking for transformation. You really believe that you're requesting something higher than what you now have? You're saying the words. You don't mean them. All right. Oh, I tell you, there's hope for every sinner. There's hope for every liar. For every person who's so deep in the jungle he doesn't know how deep he is. He thinks 2 steps and I'm out. 10,000 steps and you're still 10,000 miles away from the edge of it. That's the way it is. But why? I'll ask you a question. Why should you be afraid to be lost in the jungle? Who is being afraid? Who's crying out, God help me, lead me out? How'd I get here? Why'd God put me on this world? Why'd that man marry me and leave me? Why is this world such a rough, tough place? I hate it. You don't really hate the world. You hate what you don't get from a hateful world. You're part of it, right? Aren't you a part of anything you hate? You know that. Think of the word recognition, then. A recognition that all you have ever known is dependency upon what seems to be you, which is one big fake.